It's not a disability, it's a different ability. You shouldn't look down on anyone. My name is Brandon Lewis. Pleasure for having me, both of you. I'm a current university student, as you described me, a young entrepreneur and someone who's looking to grow and learn.
You're 18 years old, right?
Yeah.
And you seem to have your head screwed on with a lot of ambition.
Currently, I'm a University of Kent student studying international business. At the same time, I'm involved in a lot of different things. I'm an intern under a housing consultancy, doing a ton of different things and hoping to see where they go, I guess, hopefully in a positive light, and just hoping the best and trying to make the best future possible.
I'd like to ask, because I already know this story, but how did you get this opportunity with the internship?
Your father, he came to my sixth form, I think it was 2 years beforehand from now, and I was dressed up. I was in a three-piece suit, double-breasted three-piece suit, and he gave a talk about future opportunities and just how you should, career progressions and such, as he is the current career advisor for my school, or my previous school, that is. And through that, I shook his hand, and I wanted to kind of learn more from him. So through that, I went home, set a reminder on my notes app to message him on LinkedIn, and then I messaged him, nice big paragraph, and then he messaged me back. And then through that, email back and forth, and now I'm here. And now I'm able to nearly have a year of experience in housing consultancy, meet a ton of amazing people, and just do many more amazing things that I didn't think I'd be able to do at such a young age.
Amazing. So that, for me, just sums up the importance of really taking initiative, and in those split-second decisions of, should I speak to that person, in networking, we often overthink these things, and we create reasons in our head why not to do things. This is a perfect example of someone at school who took the initiative and now has over a year's experience from such a simple but really effective decision.
Do you feel like you've always had this confidence?
I think for me it's just a matter of having to learn it over a long time. Where I did boxing when I was so young, I kind of had to get out of my comfort zone and have to actually kind of gain confidence, not only in the ring but just in training, and be able to kind of stand on my own 2 feet properly. I remember you said to me you had the same sort of thing when you was doing Muay Thai, where you would kind of go into the corner a little bit when you just started, and then eventually you kind of learn that you have to be able to fight back. And I think that idea of fighting back can be applicable to everything just generally, whether it is in work, life or sport. You need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, and you need to be able to be confident in order to get where you want to get to.
Just before this, you mentioned something about one of the reasons you like going into the gyms is because the labels society's placed on you before are no longer applicable. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
When you go into a martial arts gym or in any gym, no matter where you come from, no matter what socioeconomic background, financial background, or you as an individual, no matter what you've done or been through, you're all respected and treated the same. I think it's a valuable thing, especially doing something like the gym or doing something like martial arts, because it allows you to almost train yourself into not judging people. Because realistically, at the end of the day, you should only really be judging yourself. You can only really make yourself better by judging other people. You're taking that energy away from yourself and putting it onto other people. It doesn't benefit anyone. Focus on yourself and benefit yourself, and if there's anything that doesn't benefit you, don't do it, or benefit those that you care about.
How did you come to be this wise about the ego?
I guess to a degree, from when I was young, I was almost a bit disadvantaged purely because I'm autistic. So because of that, it's led me to have difficulty in social circumstances and whatnot. And just through that, I've been able to kind of understand that you shouldn't, as I would not want to be judged, you shouldn't judge other people. And you, at the same time, if you're doing well at something, you shouldn't be egotistical about yourself or treat people unfairly.
Guys, if you're getting any value from this, we would really appreciate if you could subscribe and hit the like button.
I know there's traditionally been some kind of stigma about it, whereas in my view now, I don't know whether or not the traditional labels of, this is something that can hinder people. I often like to see things more with like a positive light, that actually it could be advantageous to you in certain situations. So have you ever thought of it as one of the reasons maybe behind your success? Or not behind it, but as a contributing factor?
So, yeah.
Could you tell me a bit about that?
I think definitely, purely because it kind of intercepts how I move. I'm very upright, and I think that kind of is impacted by that. And at the same time, I'm very focused and professional when it comes to things I care about. But to a degree, at the same time, you can perceive it to be somewhat negative, because things you don't like, I don't tend to do very well at. If there's something, for example, if there was something when I was doing my GCSEs that I didn't enjoy, I wouldn't excel in it as much. But there was stories back when I used to do English, and I took quite a liking to it, and I could just write and write and write, and then I just tended to do really well at something I enjoy because I can just purely focus on it. And at the minute, I enjoy learning and improving and growing, and through that, it allows me to, I guess, be successful in that sort of lane.
This is so far away from my expertise.
Yeah.
However, if you are someone who can relate to what Brandon just said, and find yourself sometimes distracted by things, maybe that's not always a negative thing. If, and this is the key point, right, you find something that really fulfills, like makes you feel fulfilled, and you channel your energy into that. And that's why it's so important to make sure you're finding the right things to put that energy into. Because you might just find that you may have been labelled as the disruptive person before, this and that, or, you know, he can't focus.
Yeah.
Once you actually find the right thing, you might be able to surpass people, surprise yourself with that progression. So don't write yourself off. I've met so many successful people who all have been, let's say, diagnosed with those things. So
It's not a disability, it's a different ability. We shouldn't treat anybody as less just because they've been labelled with something that, you know, has only existed in the last 100 years. There's still things that are constantly being found out and learned about it. You know, there might be a chance that they may have something that you don't that is incredibly beneficial, and that will be found in the next 10 years. You shouldn't look down on anyone or anything, and that is, once again, something that I learned through martial arts, something that I've kind of trained myself into doing.
It's the self-accountability, and I just think that's the best way to move forward in anything. It's not our fault how we're born, right? But it is our responsibility to conduct ourselves and take the cards we're dealt and to make a good hand of it, I suppose. I was diagnosed with dyslexia in university, but I've read so many books that people would never guess because my vocabulary has been enhanced through that. I suppose you can see it as a strength, you could see it as a weakness. It depends on what you do, right? It depends on your actions.
Well, I think that's the thing as well. Everything, just generally in life, is a lot, in my opinion, about perspective. If you look at it in that lens, you can conquer so many things.
Do you feel like people can learn to be like this?
I don't think I'm really gifted in anything, but when it comes to stuff that I like, I try to be the best at it. And I think if it's in areas of business, communications or academics or anything, as long as you go out of your way and try and be the best that you can, that's all that you should really ask of yourself. I want to know that I did everything, you know, the best that I could.
It reminds me of one of Rafa's favourite fighters, Khabib, who basically thinks that sometimes talented people are more lazy. Because they were born with these kind of God-given abilities and they feel like it's just going to carry them through their whole life. But that lack of work ethic ends up being the downfall. So it's interesting.
People can be so prideful in their ability that they don't deem it valuable to work hard and be better. And you know, there's that conversation of either working smart or working hard. I think, you know, if you can do both, I think at the start when you're quite uneducated on something, you tend to work the hardest, and then when you get more and more knowledge, you work the smartest at it. I think in martial arts or just everything, as long as, even if you're untalented, you can still be incredible at it, as long as you just put your mind to it.
Amazing points here, and you're making me think a lot, and I want to chime in because really what you've reminded me of, I don't think too much about it now, but back to my school days, we often define ourselves, and we've spoken a lot about giving ourselves identities and labels, like that's the smart kid, that's the athletic kid at school. And for a long time, I struggled with focusing. I've never taken the dyslexia test or whatever, but I find it difficult to sit down and read and stay focused. So for a long time, I labeled myself as not really a reader. Like I could read for the exams and study to retain the information, but I didn't really sit down and read books. However, once I came across audiobooks, my brain was like, it opened just a completely new dimension. And I found out that I can listen to content on 2.5 or sometimes even 3 times the speed, retain all the information in ways that I never thought was possible by just reading. But if I had just followed the traditional path of learning that was in school, I would have thought that I just was basically stupid because I wasn't able to focus like some of the other kids were. So this is it. You really got to find your lane where you can really excel. And once you find that through trial and error, you will be able to really make progress that you didn't think was possible. So
in my opinion, the educational sector is quite an archaic thing in how they view things. When I was preparing for my GCSEs and my A-levels, the reason why I did so well was I didn't necessarily understand things by just reading it once. I would just go over it again and again and again. For example, with my psychology A-levels, I revise 2 years in advance, and all I do is just write I would just write notes on 3 pages a couple times a day, and I just knew it eventually. Just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. And it only takes 20 minutes of the day, and then I just know it. You know, as long as the earlier you start, the better you'll be by the time you get around to it, I feel like.
Awesome. And speaking of studies, I know before you mentioned you're doing a project now at university was it something to do with the Dragon's Den? And could you let the audience know about that?
Currently, at the University of Kent, there's a pitching contest in relation to just attempting to get young entrepreneurs into the business world, and I've decided into entering it, and there's hopefully a good probability that I'll be able to being part of the pitching. And through that, I try to create an idea that makes use of marketing technology by considering elements of psychology and AI in order to create effective marketing solutions for smaller businesses, in order so they don't have to create marketing teams and they can do it through us. And we had a great opportunity to get Tuka Suleiman from Dragon's Den, and he came to give a talk just about his business, his perspective on things, and his mindsets. And there's a good chance that there may even be an opportunity in the future that I can do a podcast with him. He started quite young and just kept going. I think it's about consistency and just a discipline and drive to keep going, and that's why I recommend doing martial arts and recommend doing sports, because that consistency and drive will be reflected in everything you do. And even though I stopped boxing quite a while ago, I still maintain the same ideology ever since. It doesn't matter necessarily how long you've been doing it, as long as you kind of get into that rhythm, you never lose it, I feel like.
What are your ambitions for the future?
I guess for me is to hopefully, I'd love to work abroad in the future and do something that interests me and excites me, to wake up in the morning or to wake up early and actually have a smile while I'm doing it. At the same time, hopefully providing betterment to both myself and my family, and just being able to continue to learn and continue to grow and continue having fun conversations like this, things that I don't expect to do in a day.
Thanks so much for watching. Let us know what you think and what keeps you motivated, what your ambitions are. Of course, thanks to everyone who subscribed. If you haven't done so, please do. Until next time.
Thank you.